Hello, students. Today I'll begin with the explanation of Unit 5 of the essay The Essentials of Education by Richard Livingstone. In Unit 4, we saw that Livingstone has brought out the relevance of three subjects: religion, literature, and history, and he has even given a comparative analysis of these three subjects in order to know what is first rate and excellent in life and in education. Now, let's begin with Unit 5. Merely from an academic point of view, merely as a matter of curiosity, it is natural to wish to know what is first rate. So he says that if we look at the subjects from academic point of view, or even out of curiosity, it is quite natural as a person that we have this desire to know what is first rate in any field. But also it has its practical uses for the conduct of our own lives. But if we talk about the practicality of all these things, or knowing the first rate in our life, then in order to live a life of first rate, we need to know what is first rate in all the fields. So in conduct or practically also, it is really essential to know what is first rate in all the fields, in all the areas of life. I do not say that to know the first rate is the same thing as to achieve it. He says that I won't say that to know the first rate and to achieve the first rate is one at the same thing. Unfortunately, it is not. So, these two are not the same at all. Everyone knows that what the Roman poet meant when he said, Video malario provoc deteriora secor. I see what is best and I approve it. I follow what is worse. So, what he is trying to bring out is that we can see what is best, we can see what is first rate, we can give a nod to it, we can give an approval to it that yes, this is the first rate, this is the excellent, or this is the best part of something or any subject or even about human nature or life. But it is not necessary that we follow that same thing when it comes to practicality in life. This is what the Roman poet meant when he said that I see what is best and I approve it. I believe in it and I say yes to whatever I see that is best. But I follow what is worse. Despite of knowing what is best, I follow what is worse. And Saint Paul says much the same thing when he says, "When I would do good, evil is present with me." So he says that when I am doing anything good in conduct, evil is present with me all the time. Yet the people we live with in literature and history, in the world of thought, do affect our outlook and even our conduct, just as the people with whom we live in our homes or our daily work affect it. So he says that just like the people who affect our lives, uh, whether we are at home or we are in our workplace, the people who surround us actually affect our mindset, our outlook, our vision, our viewpoint, our way of living. Similarly, the people whom we adore or whom we read about in literature and in history, even they affect our thought process and our lives and whatever we believe in. It is affected by the people with whom we live and the people about whom we study in or read in literature and history. Evil communications corrupt good mores. Mores means customs, practices, but good communications improve them. So, even the way of communication actually determines the quality of thought, the quality of our conduct. Evil communication can worsen the customs and practices, but good communication can improve the same customs and practices. There is an element of truth in Disraeli's words. Disraeli, he was an English statesman and two-time Prime Minister of Britain. He was also an orator and writer. He said that nurture your mind with great thoughts. To believe in the heroic makes heroes. So he says that whenever you want to train your mind. Nurture your mind with good and great thoughts. Because when we start believing in heroic deeds, just believing in heroic thoughts, in heroic conduct and heroic figures itself create heroes. So we need to nurture our minds with great thoughts so that we can bring great things in our conduct also. Further, without these studies, we shall never know what the world is really like. So, if we want to know how the world is in reality, we need to study all these things in life. Our education tends to be superficial. So, he says that if we analyze the entire education system, we will realize that education is superficial. It does not touch the depth of a particular field or subject. I am not using the word in bad sense. I only mean that much of it is concerned with the surface of life and tells us nothing of its depths. He says that I am not talking about education in a completely negative sense or in a dark light, but what he's trying to say is that maximum subjects only give superficial knowledge of life and fail to touch the depths of it. The surface is very important, no doubt. The surface knowledge of any subject and of life is really important. We need the skills and knowledge required to cope with the immediate problems of our day, but we need to have skills and knowledge in order to cope up with our day to day life problems. We need economics and social studies and anthropology and the rest. We need all the subjects in life. But important as they are, they do not take us down to the ultimate issues and realities of life. They are superficial. He says that undoubtedly these subjects are important in our life, but they do not touch the depths of reality. They are just superficial subjects. They just give us superficial knowledge. Literature itself can be superficial, and much of it is so. He says that although I have great admiration for literature, but at the same time, I believe that literature can be superficial at times, and much of the work of literature is actually superficial. Noel Coward and Ernest Hemingway, is superficial compared with Shaw. Shaw is superficial as compared with Dante or Shakespeare. So he says that if we sit and do a comparative analysis of the various literary writers, we will find that some writers are more superficial as compared to others. He says that there are writers who find greater depths in human nature than we shall find in these lesser men. So when he is doing a comparative analysis, he says that Coward and Hemingway, these both are superficial as compared to Shaw. But if we look at the work of Shaw and compare his works with Shakespeare with that of Shakespeare, we'll find that Shaw's work is superficial as compared with Dante or Shakespeare. So he says that great writers like Dante or Shakespeare, they find greater depths in human nature than we find in the works of other writers. I am not suggesting that we should not read Shaw or Coward. I only say that unless we are content with a superficial view of life, we should also read writers who have deeper and longer views, who will open our eyes and keep them open to realities to which they are apt to grow dim. So he says that I am not saying that one should not read the works of Shaw or Coward. What I am only suggesting is that if we are contented with the superficial view of life, it is good to go through the works of Shaw and Coward. But in case we want to have a deeper and longer view about life, then it is better to study the works of other writers who are capable enough to touch the depths of realities. And the works of these writers will open our eyes and keep them open to the realities of life. The tenseness and strain of our daily occupations favor short sight. Now he says that if we look at our daily life, then the tenseness or the stress, the strain of our daily occupations actually favor short sightedness. But Livingstone believes in being foresighted or long sighted. Far-sighted, sorry. We have to focus our eyes on the business of the moment, and the power of long vision is easily lost. So he says that actually the need of the hour is to focus our entire attention on the contemporary problems, on the problems of the moment. And the power of long vision is easily lost. And just because we are messed up and entangled with the problems of the present moment, the power of long vision or being foresighted is easily lost. But man needs a long vision in life and should view it through bifocal spectacles. He says that man needs to have a longer vision about life, and one should view life through a bifocal spectacles. Bifocal means which has two focuses, one for near and one for the far things. Through one lens, he sees the immediate business of the moment, otherwise, he will not do that business well. So, with one lens, one can solve the present problems. Through the other, he sees life and our occupations and himself in the light of what Plato calls all time and all existence. So, he says that through one lens, one can solve one's immediate problems of life, and with the other lens, one can look at his future time. So, the second spectacle should be meant for all times and all existence, means the entire life and the entire time period for future. If anyone asks what these words mean, these words means these refers to all time and all existence. He has only to visit the Lincoln Memorial at Washington and read the inscriptions on its walls. If one needs to know the real meaning of these words, all time and all existence, then what one needs to do, he should visit the Lincoln Memorial at Washington and read the inscription on its walls. The Gettysburg Speech. Now, Gettysburg Speech, it is a speech that US President Abraham Lincoln delivered during American Civil War in Gettysburg. And this is considered to be one of the best known speeches in American history. And even more, the magnificent close of the second inaugural, or more simply, he can read them in any good library. So, if one wants to know the real meaning of these words, one can look at the inscriptions on the walls of the Lincoln Memorial, or the speech, the Gettysburg speech towards the end of the second inaugural. Now, even a person can find these words in some good library. Let him then ask himself, if these words do not take us below the surface of political life down to permanent issues, then let that person ask himself whether these words take us to the depth of the permanent issues of political life, whether we are able to touch the permanent issues of the political life, or whether we get only a superficial view of it. Politicians in all countries are continually making speeches. So, as per the habit of politicians in all the countries, politicians are busy making speeches. Few of them are of this kind. Only few of the politicians are of this kind. This kind means of bifocal vision. It would be better for the world if they were. So, it would be better if the politicians were bifocal in their vision. So this means that they should be in a position to solve the immediate political issues of the country and should be far-sighted enough to view the future and be prepared for the future problems. Lincoln was a man with bifocal vision, a practical statesman dealing all the time with the day-to-day problems of politics and war. So he considers Abraham Lincoln, to be a man of bifocal vision. He had the bifocal vision of being short-sighted as well as far-sighted. So he was a practical person, a practical statesman who was able to deal with the day-to-day problems of politics and war and had a very foresighted vision also. Yet he was a man who at the same time saw them in the light of eternal issues. So he had a bifocal vision, so he was able to view the things in present as well as in future. The feeling which these words of Lincoln is given in one way or another by all great literature, by the Bible, by Plato, the great Greeks, by Dante, by Shakespeare. So these words of Lincoln, all time and all existence, these words have been repeated time and again in religious books and by great philosophers and writers. They enlarge our vision. The works of these people and these words actually give an extension to our vision. Read them, make them your companions through life, otherwise you may live on its surface and forget its depths. So what we need to do is we need to make these writers and the thoughts of these writers and such words our companion in life. Otherwise what will happen? We will only continue to live our life on the surface. We will live a superficial life and will fail to realize the depths of life and forget about its deeper dimensions. So, here Livingstone in this particular unit has talked about the vision of life, and he prefers being bifocal in life, having a bifocal vision, wherein we can solve our immediate problems as well as be prepared for the eternal issues, for the issues which can occur in future. And he has given numerous illustrations to support his view. So that's all for the explanation of Unit 5. Thank you.